Hello everyone, Miss Gibbs here for our assembly this week, which is about fairness. During the assembly, I'm going to share some pictures with you. We are going to share a story and there'll be some questions to discuss as well. And then for some of the older children, I've got a little task for you to do afterwards too. Ideally, you will have a grown-up or a brother or sister with you to do some talking with at some points during the assembly, because I can't talk to you myself, sadly. So my first question is, does being fair always mean treating people the same way? You might want to pause the video and have a think and a talk about that. Okay, perhaps you've had a think, perhaps you've had a talk. I'd like to give you a couple of examples. So for example, is it fair if some people in class get an award, perhaps it's a certificate or perhaps it's your star of the day or superhero of the day, is it fair if some people get that 3 times and some people only get it once? Does everyone need to get it the same number of times? Does that make it fair? Perhaps have another pause and a think about that. So I'll tell you what I think. I think fairness isn't always about treating everybody exactly the same. Sometimes I think that's really important. Let's imagine we were giving out chocolates in class and I gave 7 to one person and 1 to another. That wouldn't be fair if everybody liked chocolates. But sometimes we need to treat people differently, either because they've got things they need that are different or because they deserve different things. If someone in your class has earned a superhero of the day lots of times, it's fair they get that. I've got a picture, a little cartoon to show you what I mean. Here's the picture. You can see lots of different animals lined up there and a man explaining some rules. And he says, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam, which is like a test. Please climb that tree. You can have a pause and think about how each of those characters is going to get on climbing that tree. And who do you think is going to pass the test and who really, really isn't? So was that fair? Does it mean that the monkey and the bird, who the monkey's smiling very much because he thinks he's going to do well, is it fair that they get to be very successful? Does that mean that the elephant or the fish or the penguin, that they're not good enough? Does it mean that the dog and the seal, they're not good enough? Or is it just a test that only really suits some people there? So sometimes when we're fair, it doesn't mean giving everyone the same. It means giving everyone the same opportunity and making sure there's justice in that. Okay, I'm about to read you a story, and in this story, this is about fairness where we talk about equality, making sure everyone has the same chance. And both of those kinds of fairness are really important. So here I am in person to read you a story. So we're going to read this story, Amazing Grace, and think about fairness in this book and how people are treated the same or differently. You might recognise the words Amazing Grace. You might recognise this book. It's over 25 years old and quite a famous book. And Amazing Grace, the title, is also the name of a very famous American hymn that people sing in church sometimes. So we're going to learn about this little girl who's called Grace, and I'll tell you all about her. She's quite the character. Grace was a girl who loved stories. She didn't mind if they were read to her or told to her or made up in her own head. She didn't care if they were from books or on TV or in films or on the video or out of Nana's long memory. There's Nana, she's telling a story. Grace just loved stories. And after she'd heard them, or sometimes while they were still going on, Grace would act them out, and she always gave herself the most important part. There she is acting them out. Do you ever act out stories? Grace went into battle as Joan of Arc and wove a wicked web as Anansi the Spider-Man. Oh, she looks scary in that one. She hid inside the wooden horse at the gates of Troy. She crossed the Alps with Hannibal and 100 elephants. She sailed the 7 seas with a peg leg and a parrot. There she is, acting out her different stories in her mind. She was Hiawatha, sitting by the shining Big Sea water. Now, Hiawatha was a Native American leader. He led the Mohawk people. I had to look that up to find out because I'd not heard of him before. But you can see why she liked acting as him. He was very important. I like how the cat's helping. And Mowgli in the back garden. Do you know the character Mowgli and where Mowgli's from? But most of all, Grace loved to act pantomimes. Sometimes we call them pantos. I wonder if you've ever been to see a panto. She liked to be Dick Whittington, turning to hear the bells of London town, or Aladdin rubbing the magic lamp. The best characters in pantomimes were boys, but Grace played them anyway. When there was no one else around, Grace played all the parts herself. She was a cast of thousands. Paw Paw the cat usually helped out. And sometimes she could persuade Ma and Nana to join in when they weren't too busy. Then she was Dr. Grace, and their lives were in her hands. I think she's listening for a heartbeat in that one. One day at school, her teacher said they were going to do the play Peter Pan. Now, you might have heard of Peter Pan. We did it at school a couple of years ago. Some of the children in year 5 and 6 performed Peter Pan. There's a film, there's a book. You may have heard of it. Grace put her hand up. Who do you think she wanted to be? Peter Pan. You can't be called Peter, said Raj. That's a boy's name. But Grace kept her hand up. They can see everybody there. And lots of them have got their hands up. Why do you think lots of people have got their hands up? I think lots of them want to be Peter Pan because it's the most important part. You can't be Peter Pan, whispered Natalie. He wasn't black. But Grace kept her hand up. All right, said the teacher. Lots of you want to be Peter Pan, so we'll have to have auditions. We'll choose the parts next Monday. When Grace got home, she seemed rather sad. What had made Grace sad? You can pause and think about that. Why was she feeling sad? Ma asked the same question. She said, "What's the matter?" Raj said, "I couldn't be Peter Pan because I'm a girl." "That just shows all Raj knows about it," said Ma. "Peter Pan is always a girl." Grace cheered up. Then later she remembered something else. "Natalie says I can't be Peter Pan because I'm black," she said. Ma started to get angry, but Nana stopped her. Why do you think Ma was feeling angry about that? "It seems that Natalie is another one who doesn't know anything," she said. "You can be anything you want, Grace, if you put your mind to it." Was it fair of Natalie and of Raj to say that Grace couldn't be Peter Pan? The next day was Saturday, and Nana told Grace they were going out. In the afternoon, they caught a bus and a train into town. Nana took Grace to a grand theatre. Outside, it said, "Rosalie Wilkins in Romeo and Juliet," with beautiful sparkling lights. So they're walking near the theatre there. The play is called Romeo and Juliet, and there's obviously a new actress in it. "Are we going to the ballet, Nana?" asked Grace. "We are, honey, but I want you to look at these pictures first." Nana showed Grace some photographs of a beautiful young girl dancer in a tutu. "Stunning new Juliet," it said on one of them. There's the new ballerina. Why do you think Nana has decided today's a good day to take Grace to see this poster and see the new star of this ballet? Why would that be? "That one is little Rosalie from back home in Trinidad," said Nana. "Her granny and me, we grew up together on the island. She's always asking me, do I want tickets to see her little girl dance? So this time I said yes." Wow, they're going to see the ballet. How excited they look. And look what Grace did afterwards. I think she's feeling inspired. After the ballet, Grace played the part of Juliet, dancing round her room in her imaginary tutu. "I can be anything I want," she thought. "I can even be Peter Pan." How did looking at the poster with her Nana change how Grace felt about it? On Monday, They had the auditions. Their teacher let the class vote on the parts. Raj was chosen to play Captain Hook. Natalie was going to be Wendy. They then had to choose Peter Pan. Grace knew exactly what to do, all the words to say. It was a part she'd often played at home. All the children voted for her. You were great, said Natalie. There she is auditioning. Why did Grace get the part? I think Grace got the part because she was the best person for it. She had lots of experience in acting because she'd done it lots at home, and so everybody voted for her because she was the best person for the job. It didn't matter if she was a girl or a boy, or whether she was black or white. She was the best person for that job, and so it was fair that she got it. And there she is, look. Peter Pan. You might have seen Peter Pan in green before. The play was a great success, and Grace was an amazing Peter Pan. After it was all over, she said, "I feel as if I could fly all the way home." Why did she feel like she could fly? I think there's a couple of reasons. Peter Pan flies, you see, and also when you're really excited and you feel you've done something really brilliantly, sometimes you feel like you've got enough energy that you could fly. You probably could, said Ma. Yes, said Nana. If Grace put her mind to it, she can do anything she wants. And that is the story of Amazing Grace. There she is, being amazing. She's loving how she feels after playing Peter Pan. So, I'd like us to reflect. We've had a look at whether treating everyone the same all the time is always fair. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. For Grace, of course it was fair that everybody was treated the same and everyone had the same opportunity. But at the beginning of our assembly, when we looked at those different animals, it wasn't fair to expect everybody to achieve the same. So fairness is treating everybody either equally or in a justice sort of a way, where we make sure that everyone gets the same chance, but they might need to be treated differently. So before we end our assembly, I'd like you to reflect on how you can make sure that you contribute to things being fair and how you can challenge them if you feel like they aren't fair. So you'll want to take a minute for that just in a minute. Before you do that, I'd like to set a little task for our children in Cambridge and Jurassic. And if you're in Studlands and you'd like to do this, you can, of course. So there were some words in that book that I looked up and found out what they were. So this was the Native American leader, the leader of the Mohawks. This was the place, Trinidad was the place that Grace's Nana said that she'd grown up with the ballerina's mum too. And Romeo and Juliet was the play that they performed it as a ballet in the story. So on a piece of paper or in your exercise book, if you've got your green book at home, Jurassic I know, and Cambridge, you've got a book at home too. I'd like you to note down those 3 new pieces of vocabulary, new pieces of learning, and then find out using the internet, or you could do that on a phone or a laptop, find out what they are and what they mean. I've put some questions that might help. What, who, and where. This one's a who, this one's a where, this one's a what. What's interesting about them, and in the context they were in the book particularly. Explain what those terms are and what they mean, and then see if you could put those in a sentence. You might find one is particularly interesting to you, in which case spend a bit more time on that. But those are 3 new bits of learning you could have. And remember to take some time to reflect, ladies and gents, on what we mean by fairness and how you can make sure you contribute to it. Lovely to see you. See you soon.